What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the man, the myth, the legend, the brother Robert Mason coming through with the donation to the channel once again via the PayPal. Salute to you for showing love. All right, so let's get to this. All right, so I seen Willie D talk about a video. I seen Willie D talk about this in a video. I've seen some other people talk about this. All right, so this actually happened a couple of months ago. I remember this happening. So Steve Harvey did an interview with Kamala Harris back when she was presumptively going to be renominated as the VP under Biden. But after that horrific debate performance later that month, pressure grew on the Democratic Party leaders to push Biden out the way, which ultimately he did do, step down, making the way for Kamala. So Kamala's now at the top of the ticket with Tim Walz as the VP. So this is now relevant only because now Kamala's at the top of the ticket. So this is a recycled news story. And plus, I don't think a lot of people paid attention to this when this first happened. So anyway, Steve Harvey was doing a softball interview with her. And one of the critics, not one of the critics, but one of the criticisms of Steve Harvey, among many, is that whenever he's doing interviews with politicians, he asks them stupid questions. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't really ask them hard-hitting questions. To which he said, yeah. You see that ain't what this is. You see, I'm throwing a lob. You see, this here is an alley oop for a dunk. You see, because this administration needs to get the word out of what they're doing and what they're actually accomplishing. See, so we can stop all this foolishness about what you gonna do for black people. Yuck. I'm on this radio show and I'm hearing all these people talking about I'm not voting if they're not doing nothing for us. Listen to me. Yuck. If we don't vote, how we gonna ask for something next time? Yuck. So let me get something straight here. We've been for 60 years now the most loyal, most consistent, and the largest contingency of by percentage of Democratic voters in the past 60 years. Ever since the Civil Rights Act, which wasn't exclusively for us anyway. What have we gotten from the Democratic Party? Remember, since 1964, we've seen several Democratic administrations. The Johnson administration, the Carter administration, the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, the Biden administration. They're trying to put in the Harris administration, right? For the majority of that time, since 1964, from 1964 to 1994, and then again in 2006 to 2010. So the majority of the time, we had a Democratic Congress. Have we gotten anything? Have we even gotten a hate crime bill specifically for black people? Because, we can at least ask for that, right? Since we are by far and large the biggest victims of hate crimes in this country, we don't even have that. Asians do. Jewish people do. Even though they're very rarely the victims of actual violent hate crimes. Now, actual, property stuff, yeah, but violent hate crimes pales in comparison to black people. We don't have anything. But you know what has been passed and has been supported, bipartisan support by Democrats, including the Black Congressional Caucus, a crime bill that they knew would disproportionately hurt Black people, drug laws they knew that disproportionately would hurt Black people, welfare reform that they knew would hurt disproportionately Black and poor people who desperately need to be on that, at least for a temporary basis, all for short-term political gain. But what have we actually gotten anything? So for 60 fucking years, we voted and kept our mouths shut. So the minute we say, you know what, everybody else is getting something for their vote, why can't we ever ask for anything? No, they want us to shut our mouths, put our hands down, put away our queries, and go shut up and vote. And vote blue, by the way. Vote blue, but shut up and vote. So be slaves, like we used to, and how the world see us. And then they have entertainers as our leaders. The Ricky Smileys, the D.L. Hugleys, the Steve Harveys, the other people who are being obviously compensated by the Democratic Party. Hell, Kai Cenat just said they were trying to recruit him, and he didn't want no parts of it. So you got all these people compensated. Look, D.L. Hughley, as recently as last year, was cracking jokes about Kamala on Comedy Central. Now he's her biggest champion. He's her biggest champion all of a sudden. Come on, man. It's so obvious he's getting paid. Paid Democratic shield. What the difference is, see, what they don't like is, see, we're wising up to their BS now. We're wising up to their BS. We know what's going on, and they don't like that. They don't like that. So out of frustration, now they're trying to tell us to just, that stuff don't work no more, man. Steve Harveys and all these old, mossback mullions, they don't got no power like that no more, man. Did anybody really talk about Steve Harvey anyway? I mean, has Steve Harvey been relevant since 2010? And by the way, the fact that they try to promote entertainers as our leaders tell you how they look at us. They don't respect us as a community because the rest of them only value our entertainers anyway, so they can be entertained. They look at us as performers for them. That's the peak of what we can be. Entertainers. Tap dancing and dunking a basketball, or, enthralling them with our acting or our rap skills or singing ability or whatever. That's what they look at us as, nothing but entertainers. I told you, they really look at us as nothing more than ornaments. Something pretty to look at or to do horrible things to at times, but they want us to be ornaments in a position where we're placed strategically in certain areas, but not to bother them. Ornaments are always put somewhere where a person can admire them, but they're fixed in a place so that they can't cause any harm. But anyway, yeah, they're still on this track, man, where they want us to just shut up and not ask for something for our vote, and that's just not how it works. They can't stand our black asses. They hate us. They hate us. That's why, they're trying to compromise as many people on YouTube and other social media platforms. That's why they have these bots. Even my little old channel, we have bots in here trying to tell you to vote for Kamala, some for Trump. I ain't saying Republicans don't do it, but it's more effective from the Democratic Party because the vast majority of us vote Democratic. But they can see that it's eroding. They can see that in voters, potential voters under 40, definitely under 30, the Republican Party is making inroads, and that bothers them because that's the future. So as I said, these mossback moolies begin to move on to the upper room. It's going to be a growing trend. See, this happened before, but it was in reverse. As I said before, up until 1932, the vast majority of voters, black voters in this country, voted Republican. But it took a global catastrophe that was the Great Depression to get black people to vote Democratic. They voted a majority Democratic for Franklin Roosevelt in 1936, but still at the state and local level, black people were still voting Republican, especially in the South. But what happened was, in 1948, Harry Truman vowed, who was a racist himself to some extent, maybe became a little less racist as he got older, but still, we would classify him as a bigot. But still, he thought it was a disservice that black people who were fighting overseas in segregated units were coming back to this country after we supposedly liberated Europe. And they were still faced with all this racism here. And also was strategic. I'm going to tell you why. It was also strategic because the communist system doesn't focus on race as much as class. Everybody tends to be in that same class structure. It's more about class structure and not as much of a focus on race. And that was becoming more and more appealing to black people. So to preempt that, the Democratic Party realizing that the Communist Party was becoming more and more appealing to black people, who were starting to become a very important electorate, began to fight more and more for civil rights. Hubert Humphrey spoke at the Democratic Convention in 1948. Harry Truman vowed to be more active in civil rights in 1948 Democratic Convention. And the Dixiecrats, led by Strom Thurmond, said, hell no. We don't support this. We out. They formed the Dixiecrat, I don't want to say Dixiecrat Party, but I guess you call it that. They formed the Dixiecrat ticket and ran against the Democrats. And on the left, Henry Wallace, who was the vice president, was damn near a communist, but he was a socialist. And he didn't like certain things with the Truman administration, so he ran from the left. But somehow, Harry Truman won re-election without the support of the South, for the most part. So that finally gave the Democratic Party, the leaders, they started realizing, look, we can win elections without having to kowtow to the Dixiecrats. We can win a national election without their support. So increasingly, what you started to see was the liberal wing of the Democratic Party become more and more prominent and in control. 1952, 1956, you had the liberal Adlai Stevenson at the top of the ticket. In 1952, he did run with a segregationist in John Sparkman, but in 1956, he ran with Estes Kefauver, who was a liberal from Tennessee. And then in 1960, you had John F. Kennedy, who was from Massachusetts, run with Lyndon Johnson, who's becoming increasingly more of a liberal, although he's from Texas. So that's what started happening. So then by 1964, the Republican Party said, you know what? Let's start making a play for these disgruntled former Dixiecrats. So many of them started voting more and more Republican, though it was a slow process. And then it accelerated in the late 60s with Nixon and Southern Strategy, but more so under Reagan and Bush. And that's what happened. That's what pretty much has happened. But now I think things are kind of changing a little bit. The Republican Party is starting to realize that they can't, I think Trump realizes this, they can't win with just that coalition of voters. They need new voters. They have to open up the tent. So I think what's going to start happening eventually is the Republican Party is going to start moving away from some of these and stop catering to some of these bigots, man. Because I'm telling you, it's not a winning coalition. You can't win with those guys no more. Yeah, you'll win, Montana. You'll win Wyoming and Idaho and Utah. But if you want to win the electoral rich states of California, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Illinois, Michigan, and eventually Texas, probably Florida in about 15 years, you're going to have more of a diverse coalition of voters. So the Republican Party, they're going to have to realize they can't keep catering to those racist pieces of shit no more. It's not going to work no more. So anyway, we're going to see some realignment of these parties. But anyway, that's all I got to say in this particular video. Tell me what you guys think.